So at first I had no idea what the grenade launcher was even for, because, like, I have the rocket launcher, which shoots straight, right? But then I realized it's really good for enemies running at you. And it's also really good for racking up multi-kills. You can shoot it at the ground and it will bounce indefinitely until it hits whatever is charging at you. Or you can shoot it in the air above what's charging at you and it'll land between them and rack up really good multi-kills. So it actually has a bit more use than I anticipated. You know, there was a point at which these skeleton enemies, I had a plan for dealing with them. They charge directly at you, so you jump to the left or right and then shoot them while they're turning around to come at you again. But then the game starts summoning them in large numbers like this, and you're just like, screw it, I'm gonna pull out the minigun. I've yet to find a problem that the minigun can't solve. It seems to have infinite range. The only unfortunate thing about it is that its ammunition gets eaten up really quickly. Let me get the grenade launcher out here. Like I said, the grenade launcher, really good way to deal with stuff that's charging at you. The sequence of events that is occurring right here, me commentating over this specific part of Serious Sam, I'm getting some major deja vu, which is weird, because I've definitely never played Serious Sam before. It makes no sense for my brain to be going, yeah, you totally did this before. I think my brain's even saying, no, it's alright, you did this before in a dream, it totally makes sense, but it doesn't make sense, because I didn't play Serious Sam before. Why are you trying to justify it by saying it was in a dream, brain? That doesn't make any sense. I'm not gonna buy that. You don't need to justify it. It's alright, everybody's brain does this weird thing sometimes. Stop trying to make it work. There's no way to make it fit into the existing canon. You know, I feel like I fought this exact wave of enemies just a few seconds ago. I could be mistaken, but I feel like I fought literally this exact wave just a few moments ago. That could be more deja vu, though. I wonder if there are any other first-person shooters like this. I don't mean this specific style, because I know there are a lot of other first-person shooters of this style, where you move across the ground really fast and it's really arcadey. That was like the original first-person shooter. But I mean of this design, where it focuses on a whole bunch of really small, weak enemies that you fight for most of the game, like Dynasty Warriors, but a first-person shooter. And yes, I know in almost every shooter you fight weak enemies. That's not what I'm talking about. I mean weak enemies in excessive numbers. I don't think you could ever argue that the numbers we fought were not excessive. There were definitely a lot of enemies, and they were just there so it would be satisfying to kill them all. Did you know Serious Sam has so many more entries and spin-offs and shit than Duke Nukem? Because I didn't. With how much of a reputation Duke Nukem has, it's easy to forget that there were only 2 first-person shooter entries, and one of those is Duke Nukem Forever. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of mod content, but that's not what I'm talking about. And if you want mod content, Serious Sam has Duke Nukem beat there too, with Serious Sam Revolution on Steam, which is updated by fans with fan content constantly. It's what the entire game is for. So Serious Sam is doing a lot better at coming back from the dead than Duke was. Strangely enough, both Serious Sam and Duke had Game Boy Advance entries. Someone was or is currently trying to remake Serious Sam Advance, but with the HD updated graphics. Some Russian community was also trying to remake Serious Sam: The Next Encounter for PCs. And while I have to praise his ambition, it didn't look like it turned out so well on the technical side. The Duke Nukem series did have something that the Serious Sam series doesn't have, to my knowledge, and that's third-person shooters. Duke Nukem, believe it or not, had 3 separate third-person shooters for the PS1 and Nintendo 64. That just sounds really odd to me. Duke came into popularity primarily through his first-person shooter, so when they went to make spin-offs, it seems weird that they chose third-person. Not that I'm complaining, since I prefer third-person shooters, but 3 third-person shooters, wow, and they were all 1 year apart? One of them is even exclusive to the Nintendo 64, which sounds even weirder to me. A Duke Nukem game exclusive to the 64. Even weirder still is that I'm not sure they're all connected. The first 2 third-person shooters were developed by N-Space, and they are Time to Kill and Land of the Babes. Land of the Babes is a direct sequel to Time to Kill, but the one for the Nintendo 64, 0 Hour, it was not developed by N-Space. So I don't know if it's related to the other 2, but if it's not, isn't that even weirder? that there were two separate third-person shooter Duke Nukem properties at the same time? What are the chances of that happening? Especially since they were all released a year apart. That's just so strange. It's not like 0 Hour was a remake of one of the other ones either. It's its own thing. It's weird seeing little connections like this in games releases that people might never notice or never thought of even when they first came out. Like I mentioned before when I was playing Power Rangers Mega Battle, that MX vs. ATV was at one point two separate series that joined together, and I doubt that anyone even noticed, because even though that's the entire point, MX wasn't a very popular series, and ATV Off-Road Fury wasn't in the title. It was just ATV versus MX. It gets even weirder when some of these pseudo-sequels, when they make references to each other, like in Cars. There's a trilogy of Cars video games based around the events between the first and second movie. Do you think anybody noticed they were sequels to each other? Because I don't think the demographic would have noticed, but there's still hints in each game of what happened in the previous one. And they all have very similar mechanics and they're all technically open world. It's just weird to see stuff like that. Like, why did they put in the effort? Is it specifically so I could notice that Mater remembers your monster truck in the first game? Is that what that reference is for? Is that just for me? Am I the demographic for this Cars video game trilogy?